The Formula One paddock arrived at the Red Bull Ring for the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix with high expectations and simmering pressure. As the European leg of the season deepens, momentum is everything, and this weekend in Spielberg was always going to be a critical one, especially for the teams trying to assert dominance or bounce back from recent inconsistencies. But few would have predicted the scale of the statement made by Lando Norris on Saturday. What unfolded during qualifying was more than just a lap of brilliance. It was a reaffirmation of McLaren's status as a genuine front-running force, and of Norris' growing stature as one of the most complete drivers on the grid. In blistering conditions and amid heightened tension, Norris delivered a hammer blow to the rest of the field, sealing pole position with an astonishing time of 1 minute 3.971 seconds. That lap wasn't just quick, it was clinical, composed, and commanding. The margin over second-place Charles Leclerc was a staggering 0.521 seconds. In Formula One terms, half a second in qualifying is not just a gap, it's a gulf. And in a modern era where margins are usually counted in thousandths, this was a pole position that sent shockwaves across the grid. Norris had set the tone early, topping both Q1 and Q2 sessions. That's important to note, because while many drivers ramp up their performances gradually, Norris was immediately locked in. From the first laps of qualifying, it was clear he and the car were working in unison. That kind of harmony rarely happens by accident. It's a product of team preparation, driver confidence, and a car that responds exactly as expected. As Q3 got underway, Norris laid down a provisional pole lap that looked hard to beat. But rather than simply defend that time, he went out again and improved. That second run, the one that broke the 1 minute 4 second barrier, sealed his 12th career pole in F1 and arguably one of the most impressive to date. It was the largest pole margin of the season so far. It came not on a fluke day or in changeable weather, but in dry, stable conditions where pure pace wins. Behind him, Charles Leclerc's performance should not be overlooked. The Ferrari driver put in a solid session, placing himself second on the grid. But being over half a second down will sting, not because it was a poor lap, but because it likely represented the maximum that Ferrari could offer. And that in itself reveals a lot about the competitive gap at the top right now. Oscar Piastri was unlucky to find himself only third. The young Australian was among the drivers compromised by a brief yellow flag at the end of Q3, caused by Pierre Gasly spinning at the final corner. With the yellow flags out, Piastri had to abort what might have been his best effort. That kind of moment, a fraction of a second, where conditions change, is what makes qualifying so brutal. You get one shot, and sometimes the timing just doesn't fall your way. Nevertheless, Piastri's performance through Q1 and Q2 showed he was right in the mix and had the pace to challenge Norris before the yellow flag drama intervened. Lewis Hamilton, now in Ferrari red, put in a competent lap for fourth, while George Russell, fresh off his win in Canada, had to settle for fifth in the Mercedes. Russell made a few small errors in his lap, and with the midfield closing in rapidly behind the top teams, any mistake comes at a cost. And that's where the surprises really started to unfold. Liam Lawson was one of the standout performers of the session. The Racing Bulls driver delivered a blistering lap to secure sixth on the grid, beating Max Verstappen in the process. Lawson has been under pressure this season, with speculation swirling about the future of the second Red Bull seat. But performances like this matter. Out-qualifying Verstappen on Red Bull's home soil is no small feat. And while Verstappen was also hampered by the Gasly-induced yellow flag, the fact that Lawson was already ahead on earlier runs underlines the Kiwis' growing confidence and maturity. Verstappen, meanwhile, will start seventh, an unusually low position for the defending world champion. But it wasn't just the yellow flags that hurt him. Verstappen spent much of the session complaining about the balance of his RB21. At one point, he radioed in that the car was completely undrivable. That's not the kind of message you want to be hearing from your lead driver just weeks before the summer break. The Red Bull car, which once looked unbeatable in clean air, is showing signs of vulnerability. And with McLaren continuing to develop rapidly, that vulnerability could turn into real trouble if left unaddressed. Gabriel Bortoleto added to the qualifying drama with an impressive run to eighth. The Kick-Sauber rookie had never before reached Q3 in his short F1 career, but he didn't just sneak through, he did it with confidence. This was a breakout performance that will raise eyebrows. Bortoleto is managed by none other than Fernando Alonso, who must be smiling at the pace and poise shown by the young Brazilian. It's a long road for rookies in F1, especially at midfield teams but Q3 appearances are a sign of things clicking into place. Rounding out the top 10 were Kimi, Antonelli, and Pierre Gasly. Antonelli, the teenage Mercedes rookie, continues to deliver mature performances well beyond his years. To be in Q3 at a technical circuit like Austria speaks volumes about how well he's adapting. Gasly's 10th place was respectable, but not without incident, with his late spin bringing out the yellow flags that affected others. It's another reminder of how tight the margins are in this field. Looking further down the grid, the qualifying session had no shortage of storylines. Alonso just missed out on Q3, ending up 11th, while Alex Albon was 12th in the Williams after showing flashes of pace in Q1. Isaac Hadjar took 13th for Racing Bulls, with Franco Colapinto in 14th and Ollie Behrman 15th in what was a challenging day for Haas. But perhaps the biggest headline outside the top 10 was the shock exit of Carlos Sainz in Q1. The Williams driver struggled with what appeared to be damage during his final run and could only manage 19th place. That's a brutal result for a driver who had hoped to be in contention for points. Sainz reported the issue over team radio, but the damage was already done. Alongside him in the bottom 5 were Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Nico Hülkenberg, all names you'd expect to at least challenge for Q2 on a regular day. The session wasn't without drama off the track either. A fire near the circuit delayed Q2, adding another layer of tension to an already high-pressure afternoon. The pit lane also saw a moment involving George Russell's Mercedes, which was released into the path of oncoming cars, something the stewards have noted and may investigate further. From a strategic perspective, this qualifying session gives us an intriguing grid. Norris out front with a clear pace advantage, followed by Leclerc and Piastri, who will likely be watching each other just as closely as they're watching the leader. The two Ferraris, with Hamilton joining Leclerc, have the combined experience to mount a threat, especially if they can pressure Norris early or split the McLaren strategy. Further back, Verstappen will be on the charge, no doubt aggressive in the opening laps, while Lawson and Bortoleto will have to show composure as they battle season campaigners. The race will test tire management, especially with expected high track temperatures, and the long DRS zones in Austria always invite bold overtaking. But beyond just the technicalities, this qualifying session reinforces a bigger story. McLaren is no longer the underdog trying to close the gap. They are the benchmark. Andrea Stella's leadership, the upgrades on the MCL 39, and the internal harmony within the team are translating into results. McLaren is not just fast. They're confident. They're executing. And with Lando Norris at the top of his game, they have a driver capable of converting Saturdays into Sundays. As we look ahead to race day, all eyes will be on whether Norris can convert this pole into victory. But the bigger picture is perhaps more important. This is not a one-off. It's part of a growing pattern, and that pattern is reshaping the F1 narrative in 2025. Red Bull are under pressure, Ferrari are steady, but searching for something more, Mercedes are building around a new generation, and McLaren may just be leading the way. This Austrian Grand Prix weekend is already delivering more than just lap times. It's telling us about the balance of power in F1. It's showing us which drivers are thriving, which teams are evolving, and which ones are running out of answers. That's why we love qualifying, not just for the action, but for the clarity it brings. And for McLaren fans, the clarity is bright papaya orange. Hello, McLaren faithful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss any McLaren and F1 updates with relaxing ASMR elements. Your support helps this incredible community grow stronger every day, and it's a small effort that goes a long way. Even if you can't contribute in other ways, it's completely free to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to keep the conversation going and share our passion for McLaren and F1. Your support helps keep the community thriving. Thank you for being part of McLaren Faithful.